Hey friends, it's Mike. I thought I would take a little time out and compare a real Gibson Standard. I have a 2016 Standard T versus my Chinese Jimmy Page Les Paul Standard. And here's the Chinese version of it, and here is the genuine Standard T. So the first thing I just want to call out is, if we take a look at the headstock, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick this up real well with the camera, but if you take a look at the Gibson logo, that's real mother of pearl, and you can see it has a reflective, very distinct look to it. If I go over to the Chinese version, you can see you really don't have that. It doesn't have that reflective mother of pearl quality to it that you have over here. You can see the difference. If we take a look at the Les Paul signature here, you can see on the Standard T, the genuine guitar, that it's very clear, very pronounced, almost bolded out. And then if we take a look at the Chinese knockoff, you can see that, well, you don't have that. I have a string butler on this one, by the way, too. It's remarkable as far as keeping the guitar in tune. Take a look at the Truss Rod Covers. On genuine Gibson, you're going to have two screws. That's because here, where this screw would go in, you have a part of the headstock where you can screw the screw in. The Gibsons, on the other hand, sometimes you're able to get a two-screw Gibson truss rod cover in. Many times you cannot. It's just the way the guitars are designed. So what you wind up doing, or what I wind up doing, is having to put on an Epiphone truss rod cover. And that's what we have here. The real Gibson here, and the knockoff Gibson here. All right. The tuners are the same, except for the fact these are locking Grovers, and these are just the regular Grovers. I had put these on, so the tuners are good tuners, regardless of which guitar we're talking about. From a fretboard and fret perspective, this 2016 Standard T is crafted extremely well. I've been playing it, and it feels really, really good. No problem with the frets, as you would expect with a guitar that costs $2,300. On the Chinese Jimmy Page knockoff, the fretboard now feels really good. When I first got it, I had to do some fret work and fret leveling, but it still plays really well. I can tell you that the rosewood on the real Standard has a richer look to it. And if we go to the Chinese knockoff, I mean, it's a nice looking rosewood, but it doesn't have the richness of the real deal. If we go back to the real Standard, you can see that the binding comes up, hopefully I can get that in focus for you, comes up over the edges of the frets. You see? Hopefully this is coming out clear. Let me position it so that you can see it. With the knockoff, you don't have that. Frets just laid in. Okay. As far as the fret inlays go, on the Standard T, again, real mother of pearl, and so there's a very distinctive swirl pattern to the inlays, and these also are like an off-white, almost like a vintage white on this guitar, and it's very pretty. Whereas if we go to the knockoff, you have the swirls, but what you're getting is not real mother of pearl. These are plastic. These are plastic fret inlays that emulate mother of pearl. Okay, so from a fretboard perspective, the real Gibson has a much richer look to it, and there's more finesse to the finished product versus what you're going to get out of China. Now remember, when I did the review on this one. If you hadn't seen it, you can click on the link. The quality on this one when it came in was really good. Okay, I just want to mention that. It came in as a nice guitar to begin with. I didn't have to do a lot of work to it. Now, where the big difference takes place is the finish on the body. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this justice with this camera, but the striking thing about the genuine Gibson is the richness of the maple veneer underneath. It's finished like it's fine furniture. It's very striking, and I don't think I'm doing it justice here. Very, very pretty. Very pretty. Whereas when you get to the knockoff, you can see that this is a lesser quality. The grain in the maple veneer doesn't have the same richness or texture or distinction to it that you have with this guitar here. Maybe you can see it now. Okay? You don't have that here. This looks almost like very one-dimensional, and when you look at this wood, it almost has a three-dimensional look to it. Okay, so that's the difference. The craftsmanship of the wood and the finish and all that is just really top-notch. It's superb. Take a look at the binding here. So you've got this real aged binding on this guitar with the metal input plate. On this guitar, you've got the binding. It's not the same quality. It's going to be hard to see with this camera, but you can tell when you're in person when you're looking at it. But it's still pretty darn good. And it's got a plastic input cover. Both guitars have the pointers. And I think I bought this off a guy. I think he had installed the pointers afterwards, but it gives a nice look to the guitar. It gives it that vintage look. I did the same thing here with this guitar when I put it together. It's got the pointers also. Now, this guitar has no push-pull. This guitar has push-pull coil splitting on all of the volume and tone knobs. Okay, so from an electronics perspective, this is way ahead of what you would get out of China. Now, the thing is, with the schematics that they have on a site like Seymour Duncan, and you just have maybe a little bit of wiring experience, you can easily put push-pull and coil splitting pots into your guitar. Okay, so even though this guitar ships with it, which is fine, and it's obviously coming to you professionally wired and all that, there's nothing to say that you can't do the same thing on your own with a guitar coming out of China. I have to double check the pickups on this guitar, which Gibson pickups are in it. I should have done that before I did the video. I'll put the information in the description box below. They sound very good. Very, very good. So absolutely no complaints. Sometimes you'll hear Gibson owners complain about the Gibson pickups. I really can't say that with these. They have a lot of presence, and I really enjoy playing the guitar. It has a very nice tone. They're very clear. So again, the pickups in the guitar are excellent. With the Chinese guitars, of course, you're going to get just generic pickups, or you're going to get those pickups that have Epiphone stamped on the back, and of course you have to question whether they're really Epiphone pickups. But even if they are, they usually sound muddy up in the neck and a little too tinny or trebly toward the bridge. Now, this guitar has a Seymour Duncan in the bridge, and also this is not a Seymour Duncan, this is a Stu Mac Golden Age humbucker for the neck. These are great pickups. So this guitar also sounds very good because of the quality of the pickups in it. If you take a look at the Gibson bridge, you can see it has the the small pin. It doesn't have the slotted larger pin, the Epiphone post, if you will. And this guitar Also shipped with the small pins. A lot of the Chinese manufacturers are doing that now. They've gotten away from the Epiphone pins and they're putting in the smaller Gibson-like pins. The bridge on the standard T is a little wider, and I had actually put an old ABR1 bridge on this guitar because I wanted to date it back to when Jimmy Page would have played it back in the 1970s. So that's why we have a narrower bridge here. But this is a very good quality bridge. I got it from Philadelphia Luthier. The pins are the original pins that ship with the guitar. This is the original tailpiece, and we have the Gibson tailpiece here. As far as the selector goes, it's nice and smooth. You can see it's a little stubbier, shorter than what I'm going to show you on the Chinese knockoff. See, it kind of has a kind of a lower profile. See if you can see that. And here, you see it has a clunkier sound to it. This is the original switch that came with the guitar, and you can see it's a higher profile. It's a nit, but just some of the differences. If we let me turn this over so we can take a look at the back of this guitar. All right, so if we take a look at the back of the headstock, you can see there we've got the serial number, and I've noticed on a lot of Gibsons the serial number is not pressed into the headstock like you would see on the knockoff. And by the way, on the Chinese knockoffs, these are not unique serial numbers. They use the same ones over and over. It's not the same one all the time. Like, they have several that they use, but the several that they use get put on thousands upon thousands upon thousands of guitars. So, and they are real serial numbers from the standpoint, if you go into the Gibson database, you type the serial number in, it's going to come back with a plant and all that stuff. Okay, just a little tidbit of information there. And you can see here, made in the USA. And we have the, let me see if I can get it, reflection, but you can see there is a difference in how the serial number and the text is pressed into the back of the headstock. Okay. The necks actually are pretty much the same. They are the thinner necks. It's not the baseball bat neck. Like I said, I really do enjoy playing this guitar, so I have no complaints with it whatsoever. The back of the real Gibson, textured cavity plates, and we don't have the textured cavity plates here on the Chinese knockoff. We just have plain old plastic plates on it. Okay, so that's basically it. Just a real quick video to take you through some of the differences. Again, this standard T, new. This is a 2016 2300. I haven't really seen it any cheaper than that new. You can get it used, obviously, for less money, but brand new, 2,300 bucks. This guitar, if I recall, I think it was around 230. It was definitely less than 250, if I remember correctly. So 2,300, let's call it 230 bucks. So this is 10% of the cost of the real deal. So of course that calls into question, is this guitar really worth $2,300? You guys will have to decide that. I can tell you that the craftsmanship and the finish on this guitar is superb. So it's going to cost a couple of bucks to finish a guitar that looks like this. I mean, it's the top and looks like a fine piece of furniture. But some people may not care about that. It's like, okay, that's great. I'm not going to put a lamp on it, so I just want something that's going to play well. And this knockoff plays really well, but it doesn't have the same, finish to the body as the real deal. Okay, so that's it, guys and gals. I don't want to go on and on here, but I figured I would just take a couple of minutes out and compare the two. Okay? Have a great day. and talk soon.